Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda, your host today. We are back with IWWA's podcast. IWWA in short, Women for Women Association. Women come together for real talk, personal growth, and peer support. We are a woman-focused community where every woman will be able to lean on each other together and make a difference to the world. Follow us on our respective channels to get regular updates about our community.
Hi everyone! Hi my fellow IWWA audiences. So we are back with IWWA today on our very 11th episode. It's me, Amanda, your host. For today's guest, we have a very young and capable lady that I'm sharing you guys shortly. So she sent me a very, very nice bio about herself, and I definitely don't beg to differ for that. So she is a very genuine and effective people person who intuitively sees diversity and potential in people of every walk. So she's Zhi Hui. She sees entrepreneurship as a vehicle for human capital to value add and receive value. The exposure to opportunities in people engagement, youth coaching, and psychology in university serve as stepping stones towards her dream of being part of the woman in tech community. Wow. Such a nice, vision. So as a student entrepreneur of herself, she is empowered with the platform to be a thoughtful leader and enact change, and wishes to do the same for others as well. So let's put our hands to welcome Zhi Hui. Hi, Zhi Hui.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Yeah. You want to do a self-introduction about yourself? Yeah, I just did a very short introduction. We can do a longer one.
Okay, everyone, I'm Zhi Hui. So I'm a co-founder and the Chief Operations Officer of Skilio. So to give everyone a brief introduction on what Skilio is a soft skill measurement and analytics platform. So for me, I'm a student entrepreneur, which means that I'm still studying right now. I'm a university undergraduate I study psychology in the National University of Singapore. And for me, as a student entrepreneur in Skilio, a co-founder, I actually spearhead the marketing department, but I also conduct the psychological research and work on other operational aspects of the business. So there's no fixed role. I'm doing many things, and I'm studying at the same time. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there is so many different parts of you right now at different areas. Okay, so let's tap into a little bit about your role in your company right now. Because you mentioned you actually hate the marketing side of things, but you actually crown the COO, which is the ops side. So you want to share a little bit more about what you do in the company itself. Probably give us an elaboration for that.
Okay. Yeah, so as spearheading, I'm spearheading the marketing department, right? So I actually have a few interns who are working with me in the team. So that is actually that's my part of marketing, is to manage the team and then be able to carry out certain marketing roles, right? But that is just one part of it. So marketing, definitely, as a very young age startup, we are learning from scratch. For me, as you guys know, I'm a psychology major, so I have zero experience in marketing from the very start. So this was something that I had to learn alongside my team and my interns as well. And for operations wise, it's really the day-to-day things, like speaking to our clients, having to prepare collaterals, having to follow up with them, maintaining that sort of relationship with them. And that's really the day-to-day things that I do. Having to also chair our full company meetings internally as well. Yeah, that's my role for operations wise. And then for the psychological research as well, this is something very new to me as well, because we are soft skills measurement and analytics too. So there's a lot of frameworks and pedagogies that go behind how we measure the soft skills. How do we visualize our data? Why do we measure certain things? And that all falls under the realm of psychology, which is something that I'm working on as well. Yeah, so that's very interesting because it is quite relevant, I would say. Maybe I'll talk more about this later, but it's slightly relevant to what I'm studying, but not totally relevant. So that's for the psychology part of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably I think it's very interesting to hear, because marketing and also heading the ops, probably in a startup, we kind of do everything, from the start, because we want to keep the team very, very lean. So yeah, I totally understand from that point of view as well. So coming to your psychology portion, you mentioned it's very, very, it's kind of directly corresponding to your current job and also your studies right now. I kind of understand a little bit in terms of why they correspond because of the marketing side, because often we actually stand in the perspective of an end consumer or your audiences itself when they want to purchase something. So, but I'm not too sure for this side of things. So probably you want to explain a little bit more for that.
Yeah, for psychology, I think there are two main parts, right, where this is very relevant to what I'm doing. I think one part, like you said, is marketing. So really understanding what our consumers, what our potential clients want to see in terms of how we like identify the persona, their needs, their pain points, and that's all something that as a marketing personnel in charge in the team, is really important to understand what they want to see, and that's how we also craft our messaging, craft our how our collaterals are, craft our brand in terms of how we want them, how we want our potential customers to see us. So that's for the marketing aspect of things. And I think another very big part is, like I said, the soft skills framework. So that doesn't really fall under like the marketing department, but it falls under the psychological pedagogy of our whole platform. So it's actually like, we call it like the Skilio science. Why do we measure certain things? And I think that's something that a lot of potential clients, they want to hear from us. Why are we measuring soft skills in this way? Because very typically, soft skills is something that you cannot really measure. It's something that is known to be very intangible. Yeah. So now we are actually trying to quantify something that is seemingly intangible, which is why we are using a lot of behavioral analysis, a lot of reflective practice, and all these things are have to be backed up by psychological science. Yeah, so that's something that is a very big part of what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I'm just very glad that I had this opportunity to apply what I've learned in school to a certain extent. Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah.
But it's very interesting because like what you mentioned, you can't quantify it because it's very hard, especially it's soft skills. So I believe there's a lot of like theory that you guys have to probably link up with. Pardon me because I'm not very sure about this, but yeah, I think it's very, very interesting for that because I believe everybody said, oh, we can't actually quantify because there's no metrics for us to, quantify soft skills. So it's very interesting that you guys are actually venturing to this, and it's something that probably in the right now, or let's say in the near future, definitely they will need it because everybody often just skip that. Oh, it's not quantifiable. Soft skills is not quantifiable. We can't quantify that. So we skip that part. Most of the HR just skip that. So it's actually a very important part of things, I would say, because like me and you talking right now, it's actually soft skills. We are training our soft skills. Yeah. So, all these people just tend to say, okay, we can just do through an interview, and then we just see what they are good at, during an interview. But it's all quantifiable because of what degree they have, etc., etc. Is it related to our job, but not the soft skill part. So I think it's very essential. Be it work or be it marketing, retail, any industry. I think we still have to quantify it. Yeah, so I think it's quite good. It's very interesting for that as well. So coming back to, the student part of things, because right now you're still studying. So how do you cope with managing your own startup and also your studies right now? Do you face any challenges for that?
Okay. Yeah, actually there are a lot of challenges, definitely. One I would like to bring up is like the credibility. Because as a student entrepreneur, they say, oh, you're still studying. So maybe it is just like a project, right, that you're doing in school, and it's not something that you want to venture in the long term. So, but it's quite different for me because we have started this way before we required to do any projects. It was like it was really like purely a passion project, something we wanted to work on for the entire time in university, and definitely VWorks is something that we want to continue working on after we graduate. So I think really going out there to speak to investors, right? There'll be a lot of questions on whether what we are doing, we know what we are doing. That's something that we get because we are a very, very young team. So our core team, our founding team are all like year 2s and year 3s in university undergraduates. So that's something that we get very often. So to actually overcome this challenge, we actually tap on like the school network to go for like a lot of competitions, a lot of pitch sessions, a lot of networking sessions, and a lot of these opportunities that we take up, we prioritize networking and mentorship from all these opportunities. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, definitely it's a bonus, right, if we win. But I think being able to get into the space and see people, experts, right, who are already in the industry for longer than we are, yeah, I think that's very important. So that's something that we do to overcome the challenges. I think one more thing is the industry expertise that we are kind of like lacking in some areas because we are not working adults. Yeah, so for us, we are in like the edtech space, so education technology space. So education wise, something that's a bit closer to our hearts because we have gone through a certain number of years in the education system. But ultimately, when you want to reach out to businesses or say even HR and corporates, because we want to use Skilio for like hiring as well. So that's something that we always read up about, but we don't exactly have the real life, like the first-hand experience, working with these people in the workplace. So that's something that we also face as a challenge, and especially since we operate on like a B2B business model. So likewise, like I mentioned above, we are very selective when it comes to the mentorship and networking that we can get to basically fill up those like knowledge gaps that we have as student entrepreneurs. Yeah, and I think definitely the last one that a lot of student entrepreneurs will say would be to balance the time between studying and being an entrepreneur. So that's something that I also face definitely. I still remember like last year while I was rushing to study for my exams, and then we had like an important client call also to close a deal. So that's something that I face a challenge as well in terms of like time management. But I think a lot of us, or at least our team, right, we choose to see this as an advantage of being a student entrepreneur, because I think being a student entrepreneur allows us to really learn very fast and break things very fast. I think we have a lot of flexibility in terms of our time as well, so we can arrange our timetables, right, and then be able to say, oh, maybe I have like 2 or 3 days off my schedule to be able to focus on our full-time startup work, right? And then another thing will also be, as a student entrepreneur, you are learning a lot when you're studying. So you can also apply what you learn in the textbook immediately to business building. So I think it works both ways. I think it reinforces your learning academically, but it's also able to allow you to apply what you've learned very fresh to business building, the theories and the methods and the best practices that you learn. Yeah, so for me personally, after being involved in this startup, I tend to choose modules which are more relevant to what I'm doing at this point of time. So it really allows me to make sense and make use of what I've learned more meaningfully as well. Yep. So yeah, I think there's a lot of theories that you can apply. The things that you learn in university is actually very useful. But I think, you know, when you're not doing something else and you're just studying, then it feels kind of you're not very sure how to use it. You're not very sure how to apply it, and maybe you think, oh, I'll be applying maybe only after I graduate. But actually, that doesn't have to be the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something that we should play with and use to our advantage as a student entrepreneur.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. Because I think one of the very important points that you brought up is that you guys actually participate in a lot of events, or probably like investment, portfolio or investment event that NUS has actually created for you guys. I think it's very good, and I don't think everybody have the opportunity to go for that. And I definitely feel that if, let's say, you have the opportunity to do so, you should definitely grab this opportunity and just kickstart and spin off from there. Yeah, especially right now we have the Singapore government backing every startup that is actually doing this. So I think all the people right now that is watching this particular video, I would say it's very important that you tap on all the resources that you have, grab on every opportunity that you have. Yeah, so it's very, very nice that we are living in such a very good environment where it's very favorable to us. Yeah. So it's very, very important for that. So actually, I'm very, very curious, because when you mentioned you actually do all this, right, and then you still have to find a balance. I understand that it's very hard to find a balance. But because then coming back to your very, very fun, why would you come together with probably 2 or 3 other friends to do your current startup today? Yeah, Rory, you want to share a little bit about your background story, like, why create your company today?
Okay, it's a very interesting story how we came about. So our founding team has actually 3 people. So the CEO, the COO, and the CTO. So I before the founding team was formed, I actually didn't know the CTO at all. I actually knew my CEO Felix. So before I started on this whole like entrepreneurship journey, I was very involved in school, university, student life, right? I think that's quite typical for a lot of university students. So you join camps, you plan camps, a lot of like CCAs in school. So I actually joined for orientation. I actually joined faculty camp, or faculty orientation camp, and that's actually where I met my CEO. I met Felix. Yeah, so it was quite interesting because we were talking, right? We were talking during the camp, and then both of us were actually in the youth training space, the youth development space. So he was actually he was actually doing youth training for entrepreneurship to teach students, right, to advocate entrepreneurship for a lot of students out there. And for me myself, I wasn't really in the entrepreneurship space, but I was in the youth training space as well. I went to schools to teach students about leadership, you know, about all of the soft skills that we actually measure using the Skilio platform. So when we were talking, we realized we had a lot in common. We had a very common vision for youth empowerment and subsequently preparing these students for the workforce in the future. And that's something that we really felt like, oh wow, there's this alignment in the vision. So Dodi, my CTO, he was also training in the youth training space in the entrepreneurship school. And so that's why we came together, because for Dodi, he's a tech guy, right? So he has been like self-learning, coding himself, even when he was doing his A-levels. So he was very for all these skills, right, that are very employable in the future. And yeah, so that's something that all three of us had in common. So that's how we came about. So we started very early. In the first year of university, we really kickstarted the validation process and coming together to do this. Yeah, so that's a commitment, I would say. It was a shift for me because I was initially quite involved in like student life, but it's great for me looking back, right? Because that was where I managed to meet like-minded people with a common vision. Yeah, so that's how we came about.
I agree. I think it's very fascinating that you guys can actually start while still studying. And I highly encourage you, all of the youth, to actually start this, because you guys have the opportunity to fail. Not saying that you guys will fail, but even if you fail, at least you can still stand up and then do something again. So I think right now everyone is worrying around what if right now the environment is so favorable, everybody starts their own startup. And they are so afraid because they're afraid to fall, they're afraid to fail. So what are your thoughts when people tell you, oh, what if it doesn't work out because you're still so young, etc.? What are your thoughts about this? Because I've been through that young stage before. I know people tell me, you're so young, why do you do this right now? Why not you just study first, and then in the future you can just go and work in the big four or etc. Why you need to do something that's so tough? Yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
I think there are a lot of reasons why a startup can fail, and yeah, I feel you as well. That's something that has come to our minds a lot of times along the way, right? We always think, oh, I don't think this is gonna work out. I don't think, yeah, but I think so far along the way, we have definitely reached obstacles, but we always had the little boost here and there, right? To have that sort of like validation along the way. People who tell us that, oh, I think this is an excellent idea. You guys should continue to push for it. So it's all this encouragement, right, that pushes us to do something that we thought might fail in the future, like next time. Yeah, so yeah, for that, right, I think like you say, I think school is a safe haven for you to make mistakes, a test bed for you to make mistakes. And I think that's the very reason why in university there are so many more student life opportunities than ever. There are so many more student organizations than ever. It's because I think it's the last time you really get to try out something that you're not sure whether you like, right? But at least there's no, I would say there are consequences, but not as big as if you were to do this after you graduate and this becomes like your full-time job. So I would say, you know, start as early as possible. Actually, looking back, I might have started even earlier. But yeah, I'm very glad that I met the right people to be able to take up these opportunities at the right time. Yeah, so I think that's about the part on failing. I think another thing is also, like I said, reinforcing your learning. So for me personally, I'm not someone who wants to study like 24/7. I want to be able to apply my learnings and see how they play out in more realistic, in the real working world. And I think that's another thing about university to figure out. Yeah, and I think the third point, I think this is something that I actually thought about recently, because I was on a semester of NUS Overseas Colleges program. So it's like you go overseas and work in a startup. So that was something that I was thinking about as well. So a lot of people always ask me, like, so why do you want to do a startup now? Why not, right? Just graduate and then work somewhere in a big firm. So I think entrepreneurship is not just an end goal. It's not just a job. It's not just a career. But I think it's also a way of thinking for entrepreneurship. Yeah, so the entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial the spirit, right? I think it's something that even in a big firm you will need these skills to thrive, and then to be able to recognize opportunities, to be able to be unafraid to take different risks, and that's how you push for innovation. That's how you push for change. Yeah, so I think as I mean, even if in the future, right, I work in a bigger firm, I will also, and I will like look out for younger potential employees, right, who are applying for the job. I also look at this person's background, how willing this person is to try things that are not aligned to what the norm is, I would say. And I think that shows a lot about the candidate beyond just like his or her past experiences. Yeah, so that's something that I think is very valuable that I want to also work on now as a student in the future. So I think it's something I've been very trained to do. Like having been in education system for so long, right? Being able to take exams, and then you're always very fixed on like, oh, what's the correct answer, right? what are you supposed to do to get the full marks? But I think like what the world needs is more than that. Yeah, I think it's a lot of things that I learned so far in entrepreneurship that I think in school you can't really learn. Yeah, so that's something that I would give as an advice to people who are unsure if they want to start something while still being a student. Yeah,
that's good. I think the advice is really very good. So coming to what the world thinks about things, right? Because as you know, because IWA right now we're empowering women for all walks of life, and right now you being in a startup, I believe your CTO is a male as well. So you are the only female in the management team. Yes. So similar to my story. So do you face any like, you know, issues about this or so? Because being somehow we are young. Okay, not saying that I'm very young, but yeah, we are young. So, so you know, like, do you face any challenges? Because I have my story as well when I face some challenges along the way when I, you know, run my startup and etc. But if you have any, you can actually share. Or you saw anybody that faced the same issue because she's a woman or so, you can also feel free to share. Yeah.
Actually, I've been very lucky. I don't think I face any issues, and I think in fact we are given actually more opportunities because like the C-suite, right, the founding team is made up of a mix of male and female leaders, which is great. Yeah, and I think this comes from a lot of perceptions that a lot of people have. And actually, I like to bring run back to a little bit of my past experiences. So I was actually in secondary school and in JC, right? There was this position, so it's like a kind of like a head prefect position. And every year, right? Yeah, every year there had to be this debate. Also, is the next head prefect going to be a girl or a guy? So and for the past 10 years, it was always a male head prefect. Yeah, and interestingly, like the makeup of our school was like there were 3 times as more girls as guys, but somehow the guy will always win the election. Yeah, so that's something. So very interestingly, like that year, one of my seniors, he reached out to me and asked me, oh, so will you consider running for this position? And a lot of my friends were like, but so far you've always been a guy, right? Why should you go for a position that has been like always typically been a male who has taken up this position? Yeah, so that was when I faced kind of like the first time, right, when my intention, or rather my journey to getting a leadership position I want, or at least anything that I want, right, was considered differently or been looked at differently because I'm a girl. Yeah, so that's something that so that was the first time I was like, oh, actually, wow, it actually does really happen. Because as a young girl, I always had always read about this kind of thing, right? Like having a lot of male leaders out there, but I never really experienced it myself. So that was the first time. And when I was in secondary school and JC, for me, right, I was also taking part in a lot of sports. So I like swimming. So I did like competitive swimming, and definitely this is also something that not a lot of girls are there. So I was actually in an environment where surrounded by a lot of guys, right? And actually I decided, I talked to my parents about it, and I realized that, oh, actually regardless, I should still try for all these positions, right? I should still run for this position that I actually wanted, and I should still continue swimming because that's something that I like to do, a sport I enjoy. Yeah, so throughout all these years, I did manage to get a position. I did continue swimming, and that's something that really reinforced my ideology of you can do it as long you want to, right? And a lot of these activities that I participated in are always judged by my role and not my gender. I think that's something that it was great because I felt like, oh, I'm a swimmer, right? I'm not like a girl or boy. I can swim. So if I can hit that certain timing, right? Yes, that I can promote to the next level. Yeah, it wasn't so much of like, oh, are you a girl or if you're a boy, right? And then as like a head prefect as well, it doesn't matter whether you are a girl or boy, as long as you get the job done in different sort of ways, that doesn't matter. As long as you get it done, then people will be able to look at you as a leader. Not, it doesn't really matter whether you are a girl or boy. Yeah, and I think, yeah, so there were like boys, you know, when I was like swimming competitively, there were boys swimming faster than girls, there were girls swimming faster than boys. So actually it doesn't matter. It was quite fun actually. Yeah, and then slowly, right, for the student leadership body in my school, there were also boys winning elections, but then after that there were also girls winning elections. So it became like a very fair competition, and I think it was a very healthy competition as well. Yeah, so that's why I realized a lot of thought patterns that we have, right? About these inequalities. Sometimes it starts from ourselves, and sometimes it can be quite counterproductive when we think of it that way. Yeah, and I think a lot of these have to be addressed before we talk about like equal opportunities, because I think slowly now there are a lot of opportunities that are emerging, and in fact both opportunities are open to everyone. Yeah, so that's something that I realized after all this. And so you know, bringing it back to my startup, that's something that yeah, I agree, right? Because as a psychology student, there's this debate, right, about like nurture and nature. So are there some biological traits of like women that are that tend to put her in some sort of light, right, for other people to see this person differently? Yeah, I agree. There are definitely some things that girls tend to do more of, and in fact, a lot of girls fall under that so-called stereotype as well. But the thing is, I think in every team there should be a balance, healthy balance of both, because I think everyone has blind spots, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So that's how we play them out in a bigger team, and then be able to see a more holistic view of certain situations. Yeah, so I think we need both. And definitely for girls out there, I think you should look at what opportunities are out there, because I think most of them are accessible to everyone. Yeah, and in fact now there are even more opportunities that are exclusively for girls, so that's good. Yeah, yeah, do look out for them, and yeah, immerse yourself in all those opportunities available.
Yeah, there is a lot. I think right now in the startup industry, there is a lot of female closed door investment program or pitching session that all the girls, if let's say you're running a startup, you can just sign up for that. But I think we are very lucky, counting ourselves, probably we're at the Asian continent portion, so we are still open to a lot of gender inequality, because some of the guests out of the Asia side of things in the US, UK, it's not really favorable for them. Yeah, so if you ever heard of the STEM industry, right? So the STEM industry comprises of the science, technology, engineering, etc. So they actually segment their schools or their classes into this way. So I ever had a volunteer telling me that actually there is, in a class full of 50 boys, 50 people, it's just probably 3 girls. Yeah, so it's very, very common in the US and UK. So they face this very strongly because of that, and then they also have the wage differences because of their gender. Yeah, so that's why to probably in their continent, probably at their area, they are very, very strong when it comes to all this. Yeah, but I think we count ourselves super lucky, and as what you mentioned, we have a lot of closed door events just for women. So those ladies out there that you're actually listening to our session today, please go and join all the women's event or so. I think it's super valuable. I can meet you guys, I can meet a lot of people as well. So I think it's really pretty nice. Yeah, so we are almost at the end of our session already. So I actually have a very, very last question for you. So we often live by quotes, because when we are running a startup, we know we often have our downside. We often feel very down. We feel very dejected. At some point of time, I don't say that we don't have, or it's because human is not perfect. Definitely, we feel like giving up. Yeah. So what are the quotes that you live by to just get you through all these tough times when you had any? You want to share a little bit?
Actually, yeah, actually I'd like to share like just one quote. So I recently read a book written by Michelle Obama. I think everyone knows Becoming. Yeah, so there's this quote that she said, if you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll quickly be inaccurately defined by others. So I think that's something that's relevant to my stage of life, and especially to this woman community, because I feel that a lot of reasons why we miss out on opportunities, a lot of problems that we face because you're a woman, I think it's because we are not able to go out there and find opportunities to kind of like say something, to speak out and define yourself, like she said. So that's something that I really feel for a lot. because I think out there, right, there are a lot of like a large proportion of like male leaders out there, like case in point for this issue, right? And I think they're not really intentionally trying to be better or take up positions, but I think it's them being like taking up opportunities that we don't. So it's kind of yeah, I think it's an active effort on our part to intentionally recognize all these opportunities and encourage fellow women to do the same. I think that's also the purpose of building a very strong, tight-knitted community. I think that's when we feel that we have the support of people out there, like fellow women out there who are also have the similar ambition, similar goals, similar interests. And I think that's a really like beautiful thing. I think it's something that me myself I want to be involved in as well. I think there's a lot of taking initiative to be able to be courageous, to challenge the status quo and speak up. And I think now more than ever, both men and women, the world, it's more willing to listen to women than before. And I think that's something that, like you said, we are very lucky to be existing in this era. And yeah, so I think this quote also makes me realize that actually a lot of obstacles, a biggest obstacle that we face is not so much of others like reactions, but more of like our own personal perception. So when we get that out of the way, I think that's when we try to take effort to do things that we personally believe in, things that we feel that, oh, it's right. I think that's the greatest gift, right, that we have if you want to lead like a life that is meaningful. Yeah, so that's something that yeah, it resonated with me a lot. And then now, like Michelle Obama, she has this like new Spotify podcast as well. So it's something that, yeah, everyone should listen. Like her book also has a lot of perceptions on this issue. Although, right, she's also the woman behind her husband. But I think personally for herself, she has a lot of causes and a lot of issues that she advocates for very strongly. Yeah, so I think that's something that every woman deserves to have as well. And I think yeah, it will be very meaningful, and it'll be something that can make us very happy if you have a personal goal, a personal ambition that you can work towards your whole life.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. So I think today's the session, the biggest takeaway is just to define yourself, and probably just to throw away all the perspective about gender and everything. Just focus on yourself, strive the very best. I think to me, I feel that I often live the day as though it's my last day in the world. Yeah, so that's my quote as well. So I feel that it's very important, and every woman should have that goal, and don't deprive yourself like, oh, because I'm a woman, I'm not able to do that.
Yeah.
I'm always supporting my husband, etc. So I don't live by that, and I don't agree with that. I think every woman have their own say. So really glad to have you today in our session to share with us. It's very, very nice. I like the book. I like Michelle Obama very much as well.
Right.
Yeah, so I watched the Netflix podcast as well. So it's very, very nice. Yeah, so thank you so much, Zhi Hui, for joining us today. It's our pleasure. Hope to see you soon, and stay safe as well. Yeah. So thank you everyone for today's session. Thank you, Zhi Hui. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Shouting out for IWWA. If you want to empower other ladies or yourself, email us at support@iwa.sg. Do stay tuned for our upcoming podcasts every week on our respective channels. Like and subscribe our videos. Ciao!